right, you guys, it's episode 89 of Inner Demons, and without further ado, I'm gonna get straight to it. So, one more again. Earlier, when I put out the first video, I said this, but I'm gonna say it again. On behalf of Paradigm Media News, I want to wish all of you guys a happy Halloween. Seriously, I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you're out there being safe. I hope you're out there getting lots of candy. And for those of you that are 49er haters, again, I hope you eat a lot of chocolate and I hope you get real sick. No, but seriously, I hope you guys really do enjoy it. And for those of you that are parents, I hope you guys are making wise decisions for your kids. You know, I still remember to this day the days that I went trick-or-treating as a kid. They're far and few because I didn't really get to experience a lot of that going through foster care and all that. But there is some memories in there, and they're very, those memories, I hold on to them. They're innocent. They're some of the most innocent memories I have. And you know, all kids need to experience that. So although you got to be careful about allowing, you know, people to give your kids candy and you know, watch what they eat, watch what they consume. They still need those experiences, you know, going up to somebody's door, knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell, and trick-or-treating. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. Anyways, and again, the reason why I repeated that, I said that in the earlier videos, because everybody doesn't watch Inner Demons. Everybody doesn't watch the Mexican Mafia videos. So that's why I said what I said. Anyways, I'm going to get into this next Inner Demons. Now, in the last episode, 88, I told you guys how, you know, I was there in Lil Max, a tier that I had diligently tried so hard to get off of, to get back to an active tier at one time. When Dancing Bear came through, you know, I went through all that shit to get off that tier. Now I'm back. But, you know, now that I'm back, there's some sense of, you know, I understood it was finally over, that I wasn't going to go back to an active tier. This was something I had to come to grips with. And, you know, I did. You know I said this in the last episode, but I'm going to say it again. I wasn't really sure what was going to happen at that point. You know, I was just kind of just on cruise control, waiting for something to happen. The court stuff was on hold and nothing was really happening. Turtle, on the other hand, was going to court. He was going to court. Everything was kind of moving for him. You know, he had went to his, you know, to his Romero hearing, and that's how he ended up getting caught up. I told you guys that story. But now he's in a position to where he already agreed to testify, or he already agreed to cooperate. But now he had to walk that walk. You know, he talked the talk, but now they were expecting him to produce. So, you know, court stuff started happening for him. He started going to court, and you know, as messed up as, I don't even really like talking about this stuff. It's nothing I feel good about. There's still things that I still to this day struggle with, but it is what it is. I can't make it go away. And I'm going to give you guys the bad with the good with the bad, and it is what it is. But, you know, I found myself trying to help Turtle get through the mental, you know, the mental part of the situation that we were both in. It was a fucked up situation. We were both looking at a lot of time. We were both having to make some very difficult choices that we didn't consider. They were undesirable choices. They were choices that didn't sit well with us. It's not like we were sitting up there high-fiving each other, talking about, hey, we're going to be getting out and it's all good. That's not what was happening. You know, I was already going through, you know, my shit just because of the way everything happened with me. You know, spending the last 4 or 5 years trying to explain away, you know, my loyalty to youngsters that never been nowhere, didn't know nothing about politics, had never been, you know, a part of nothing. And it was just, for some of you that have been around, you guys might have been in the situation. I know you guys can understand. It's like, that was one part of that was like some of the worst part of it was having to explain to these youngsters that didn't understand the politics yet. It's not that I thought I was just above anybody else or that I was just that arrogant. It wasn't nothing like that. It was just there was a lot of youngsters that were involved in my situation that weren't seasoned or experienced enough to deal with it. So I didn't even know why, you know, they were involved. But anyways, you know, I had to do a lot of thinking. I had to do a lot of soul searching when I was up in Lil Max. This was a time where I really had to put everything in perspective. I really had to sit there and dig deep within myself and ask myself, you know, are you going to be able, what are you going to do? Are you going to really be able to get through this? And if you do, if you make these choices, are you going to be able to continue on and live somewhat of a normal life, being able to, you know, shoulder that, being able to live with the things that you're going to have to do in order to get your freedom back? That's where I was at. That's the ugly reality of it. There was nothing I could do at that point to get my freedom back other than to change my way of thinking and hopefully, you know, push my life in a different direction. Or the other choice was to just go ahead and take my chances in court, go to trial, knowing damn well I'm going to blow trial, because I don't know how many times I've told you guys, but these guys thought that I was responsible for everything that was happening in Northern California. And if you guys seen the police reports, trust me, I'm not putting 2 on the 10. Like, there was people that I didn't even know, weren't involved with, that, you know, I was being associated with. My name was popping up in their police reports. I was getting tons of police reports from all kind of cases. Norteños, if you were Norteño and you came into the Santa Clara County Jail and you had any type of gang-related case, they thought I had something to do with it. Somehow they were trying to connect the dots. This guy is running Santa Clara County, and there's no doubt that, you know, you had to go through B. Nothing happens out here without B knowing about it. So anyways, you know, I don't want to get off track. So I'm having to deal with, you know, the choices that I'm about to make. And I need to make some choices because it's got to a point now where nobody's going to wait around. Nobody's going to, you know, let me tap in when I get ready to tap in. Bottom line is things are going to start happening, and I'm either going to go this way or I'm going to go that way. But however way it's going to go, it's got to happen. It's got to happen soon. Like I said, Turtle was already going through, you know, his motions. And I found myself, this is what I was talking about. It's like, didn't really feel good talking about it, but he was struggling with those same choices himself. And I can understand it. You know, we grow up from the time that we're kids, from the time we're 4, 5, 6, 7, you know, back then we're old enough to understand some of the things that our parents instill within us. You know, the principles, the morals, things like, you know, you don't hit your little sister, you don't hit your brother, you keep your hands to yourself, you don't tell on your sister, you don't tell on your brother, you don't tell on your friends, you don't throw people under the bus, you don't steal from your loved ones. You know, the principles, the morals, the things that your beliefs, your belief system, it's molded and shaped when you're young. At that age, it starts right there. So, you know, being in this situation, Turtle was going through the same motions. He was like, B, man, you know, he's getting ready to go to court, and he's asking me, he's like, you know, what do I do when I go, you know, when I go into the courtroom, and you know, how should I do? It's like, bro, I'm struggling with this, man. It's like, I'm stressed the fuck out. And I understood it, you know. And the only thing that I could tell him is, like I told him, I was like, hey, homie, look, bro, you know, you gotta, for one, you gotta be able to ask yourself, you know, are you gonna be able are you going to be able to get past this? Once this is all over, this right here is it's not the easy part, but you're going to be able to get through it. You're going to be able to go through, you know, all the motions that you have to go through in order to get past this obstacle right here. But you know, what happens after this, that's what I'm talking about. It's some measure of normalcy. So anyways, that's where I was at. You know, my shit didn't start happening at that point yet, but you know, as far as Livingston with Campbell, he reached out through classification. They would come up. They were like the crutches that bridged that gap between us, because I didn't want to really talk to him at that point. My wife had just passed. My mom had just passed, and I always knew, you know, from the gate, it was easy for me to see the game that was being played. And I can't blame them for it. I got to blame myself for putting myself in this situation. But I always knew that, you know, my phone calls were put out there so that they could drop them and everybody will see how B's talking on the phone. He'll get in trouble with the homies. Next thing you know, we got him. We got him hook, line, and sinker. And I didn't want to just let them, you know, I didn't want to submit like that. It's like, you guys, that was your intention. I'm not going to let you win like that. So, you know, I held out as long as I could. I continued to just, you know, do my thing in Lil Max, and that's all I could do. So, you know, a couple other things happened from that point until I would actually, you know, till those wheels actually started turning. So another individual ended up moving into Lil Max. This guy's name was Robert Zapian. I forget what they called this dude. I want to say it was something like Green Eyes or Shorty or something like that. But this guy was a cold piece of work. And I'm talking about a cold piece of work. So he moves on the tier. This guy moves on the tier, and you know, he obviously knew about our cases, the whole Santa Clara. If you were Norteño, everybody had heard about our cases in that county. Everybody knew what was going on. So, you know, him moving into Lil Max, he starts putting his business out there. He starts talking about, you know, his case and about things he was doing on the streets. And I remember him telling, you know, he told me and Turtle straight up that, you know, he had been a CI on the streets, that he had been cooperating, and that was his get down. His get down was, he was like this wasn't a one and done. This guy was on the payroll, and this is what he did. This is what he did out there on the streets. He would go out there. He was a dope fiend, so he would go out there. He would get in, you know, he would go out there, go on some cold ass runs. Get out there, he starts smoking, he start tweaking out, and then he start going on his little crime sprees. And I'm surprised, you know, the district attorneys or the cops that fuck with this dude allowed him to do that. But he'd go out there, he'd commit crimes, and in the meantime, in between time, while he was committing these crimes, he would be taking notes of crimes, you know, that he would have knowledge of out there. Somebody that was running from parole, a PAL, a parolee at large, a stolen car, somebody that had guns at the house, a house that had dope in it. I'm talking about anything and everything that was happening that he knew was illegal and he could get some type of credit for. He would write it down or file it away in the memory bank. Because this is the thing. So there was one day we're on the tier, and you know, he only put so much out there on the tier. But there was one day where he had a book. I don't remember what the book was, but he shot me a book, and it's probably something I wanted to read or something. And I got the book, and as soon as he shot it and he pulled his line in, he's like, hey, shoot that back, which raised some suspicion in my mind. I was like, the fuck's he? So I fanned it out. I fanned the book to see what was in it, what he left in there. And there was a piece of paper. So I look at it real quick, and it was a fucking hit list. Not the kind of hit list you guys are thinking of, not a BNL, or that kind of hit list. It was a fucking hit list where this guy had a PAL, parolee at large, with the address, stolen car over here with the address and phone number, identifying information. Like, this guy had all his shit written down. This was a professional snitch right here. That's what it was. And I was like, this is crazy. I looked at it and he was like, hey, bro, shoot that book back. And I'm like, hold on, bro. Hold on. Like, he shot his line out there and I was lagging. I looked at it, as fast as I could, made a mental note of everything that I seen. And then I shot him his little funky ass paperback. When I seen it, I was just like, wow. It was crazy. But his thing was, and I bullshit you guys not, man. I know there's some greasy fucking people. There's people that they're greasy and they don't give a fuck. This guy actually had the nerve to suggest or propose. He was like, I know you've seen that paper, B. He was like, man, it is what it is. He's like, that's all my fucking, that's all my work right there. I give all that up to get, to get myself back out there, or to, to win favors or whatever. And he was dead serious, because what he said next blew my mind. And, the one thing that I'll say is that I can't pass judgment on people because of the undesirable choice I had to make myself. But when I seen that dude's get down, it blew my mind, and it just made me realize, man, that there's just some people that are they're rotten to the fucking core. This dude suggested that, he was like, hey, you guys all want a super burrito, see if we can get some super burritos up here on the tier. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, I'm going to call my DA right now and my cop, and I'm going to see if I can, if I can get him to bring up a couple super burritos with everything on them, carne asada. And I was like, nah, bro, I'm cool. I'm straight up. I'm like, man, I thought he was bullshitting. I thought he was bullshitting. It's like, man, when I don't know how other people look at it, but when you're dumping on somebody like that, when you're taking them off the street, you're taking them away from their family, it doesn't matter what they're involved in, what kind of criminal activity that's their business. Whether you agree with it or whether you're against it, that's another thing. But you're ruining somebody's life. And this guy he felt no guilt. He felt no sense of shame for what he was doing. And it got so bad that eventually we ran him off the tier. We got him up out of there because Turtle didn't feel good about his situation. I didn't feel good about the situation I was in, but neither one of us were on that type of shit right there. That was just one character that slid through. And, it was a trip to see it. I always heard about things like that. And obviously, before Santa Clara County, I never had been around people like that. I never been around PCs. I never conversated with them. I never had conversation to see how all this worked. But now I was seeing another side of all this. It was like, damn, on one level, it discouraged me. It made me kind of like think about what I was doing, or what I wanted, what I wanted to do, if I really wanted to go through with this. And I don't know, it just blew my mind. It blew my mind. But, his name was Robert Zapien, and I know there's a lot of homeboys from San Jose that know him. And, this cat, he had no shame. But that's one situation that I remember happened at around this same time, when this motherfucker was getting ready to tell on somebody, give up a couple of PALs and some stolen cars for a couple of fucking super burritos with sour cream and guacamole and a motherfucking horchata. And he had no shame about it. Anyway, so, while all this is going on, I'm still trying to deal with the passing of my mom. It's bigger than life. I still can't believe that my mom is gone. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm harping on this or I'm going over and over talking about the same thing, but at least for me, I can't speak for nobody else but myself. Losing somebody that had been around for my entire life, my entire existence, it was devastating. It was devastating losing my mom. I never blamed her for all the fucked up things I went through, the drugs, and somebody mentioned in the comments, they gave me my props because I was a young kid and I didn't show emotion when my mom walked me into that child services place. And I didn't understand what was going on at that time. I obviously didn't understand what was happening. But when my mom walked me in there and she was crying, all I remember is her crying and me, wondering why my mom was crying. And her kneeling down, hugging me, and then I was holding her hand, and then she took my hand and put it in the hand of one of the child services, one of the workers. And then she got up, she looked at me, she turned around, she walked away, and I was like, I'm standing there like, where you going? Wondering why she's leaving me. And then I remember her getting to the doors and then stopping, taking a look back and walking through those doors, crying, sobbing, because she was leaving her, her baby. And one of the viewers had mentioned that, and he was like, I gotta give you a tremendous amount of respect because you were young at that age. You were still trying to be strong, and I was. I probably wanted to cry, but I was trying to be strong for my mom. I was always trying to be strong for my mom, even when she ended up getting me hooked on. I'm not gonna say that. Even when she was there when I allowed myself to get hooked on heroin at a young age, I never let her take the blame for that because I felt like, what, I'm a very manipulative kid and I'm the one that did it and I made my own choices and I can't blame her for that. So I'm not one of those cats that puts all the blame on my parents because they were dope fiends or because they spent a lot of time in prison. I made my own choices and I stand on them, no matter how old I was. But I always try to protect my mom. I always try to protect her. The time I caught that case because my mom accidentally or inadvertently brought a narc to me because she was so sick that all she was thinking about was getting well. She threw caution out to the wind and she ended up bringing a narc to me. And I ended up catching a case and it was a dead bang case. So I would end up doing time over that case. But I remember going to the county jail and telling her, like, I went up there to visit her after they OR'd me and let me out because this was like the first or second time that I'd even been in trouble as an 18-year-old. So they OR'd me. I went out there to the streets, got right back in the mix, but I went up there and I visited my mom. And I remember telling her in the visiting room, Mom, I'm gonna take that case. And she started sobbing in the visiting room. And I was like, why are you crying? And she's like, baby, she's like, I just feel like a fucking, just a piece of shit, Mom. I've destroyed your life in every way imaginable. I got you strung out on drugs. I abandoned you when you were a kid. I couldn't take care of you because I was a dope fiend. Now I end up catching you a case. And even though I wasn't gonna say nothing, this is her telling me, even though I wasn't gonna say nothing to you, she's like, look, I'm a 3-time loser. They're gonna fucking stretch me out. She's like, I would never suggest that you take a case, but in all honesty, it's the right thing to do based on the circumstances. Because if I end up going down on this, she was looking at some time. Me, I was an 18-year-old. It was I still had a clean record. So it wasn't going to be that bad. But I don't know what she was thinking. I was like, you're my mom. What the fuck you think? I'm going to let you take this case? Hell no, nah, I'm taking this case. So, it's crazy, man. But, so I'm still trying to deal with her being gone in my own way. And talking to my stepfather didn't help. It didn't help. It just made it more real, and it brought that pain to the surface every time I would talk to him, you know. And you guys know how it goes too, man. When you know somebody passes away in your family, it's like all the snakes and all the dirty fucking people start coming out that all they're looking for is money. You know, my family, I've told you guys this before, but my family, my little circle really consisted of just me, my grandmother, my mom, my stepfather, and that was it. That was pretty much like our family right there. And you know, my mom had brothers, so I had uncles, but I never knew who they were because they never came around. They didn't give a fuck. They didn't care who I was. They didn't want nothing to do with me. They had heard that I was a criminal, that I was a you know, big time gang member that was just a piece of shit. So I never really met them. As an adult, I didn't know who they were. You know, and then I have my dad's family, my biological father's family. They were distant, and wasn't because they wanted to be distant. I was just in a different place running around, and I never really connected with them like that until later. But what I'm trying to tell you guys is that so my family was real small. It was just a few of us. But when when things would start happening, when my mom passed away, it's like people started coming out. She didn't really have nothing, but still, leeches, they all started coming out, you know what I mean, sniffing around looking for money. Well, I might as well just put it out there now. So, you know, here I am I'm still trying to push all that down. My mom, it's like I wanna let it out. I want to get it off. I want to, you know, be able to grieve somehow, to get it out so that I can move forward. But I haven't let it out yet. You know, I lightweight kind of dealt with it a little bit when I got into it with when I rushed that sergeant and they put me downstairs in that room, and I got into that tussle with them. I lightweight kind of let a little bit go, but that was the alcohol too. But in the midst of all this that's going on, I get smacked again. I get smacked again like a couple, I want to say it was like 2 or 3 months later. Here I am on the tier again, and I get another fucking visit from the chaplain. And this time, I didn't hear about it later. I didn't get a phone call. She came on the tier and she told me, I'm sorry. This is the third time I've seen this lady within the last, like 2007, Vicky passed, my wife. 2009, my mom ended up passing away. So, I mean, she's still working there 2 years later, but she still remembered who I was. So a couple months later, now my grandmother passed away. She ended up passing away. She came up on the tier, and as soon as I seen her, I already knew. She was like, I'm so sorry. She was like, I feel so bad, but this is my job to pass on this information. And she wanted to pray and all that. And I was like, you know what? At that time, I've never been a religious type of person, but I've always been open to the idea of there's got to be a higher being, somebody up there. We got here somehow. But I've never been real religious. I've never let myself. I'm not real spiritual. I'm just not that type of person. But any kind of faith that I had, it was shaken by the loss of my mom, my wife, and my grandmother. I didn't understand it. Like, I'm not speaking bad on people that believe in God. I'll never say anything about somebody else's, religious beliefs, anything bad. Sometimes people just need something like that in order to just carry them, to help them get through life. And that's cool. Everybody's different. But I didn't understand how a God could kick somebody when they're like, when you're already in a dark place, you're already going through a lot of shit, how you lose a wife and then you lose a mother, and then you lose, grandmother. It's like, damn, I know I've done some fucked up shit, but I don't think nobody's deserving of that kind of pain. The thing I always have struggled with too is that, and I'm not going to keep too deep into this conversation because I don't want anybody to feel disrespected. That's not my intention. But my thing was like, my wife, she was a good person. She's somebody that died at a very young age, 40 years old. She didn't deserve to die at that young of an age. It's always the people that are undeserving that die, at a young age. And then you got the bad people that are deserving of dying young that end up living a long life. And then why is there babies that die, that suffer? Why are all these things? Why do these things happen? Those are things that I always question. But then when all this happened, and I know I'm probably just rambling on right now, but when all this happened, it just made me question. It made me question any kind of faith that I had. Like, it just shook my faith. I was like, you know what? I just don't see how that anybody could be that cruel to allow these types of things to happen. Maybe that was just me thinking, I don't know. But anyways, my grandmother, I want to say it had something to do with her heart. I honestly don't even remember. When I heard about her passing, I was already kind of expecting it. Told you guys when my mom passed, I thought it was my grandmother. And being that she was ailing, I knew it was coming. Her time was coming. So when it happened, it wasn't really no huge surprise. But again, it was just the feeling of abandonment. And I don't know why I felt abandoned, because she didn't abandon me, so to speak. Like, she passed away, but I felt like, damn, all you guys just cut out on the motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? And I'm in a bad place right now. So, that's what I was having to deal with, aside from the legalities that I was going through at that time in the jail. And it was a rough fucking time, man. A big part of me wanted to just tap out, just take the time and just get the fuck out of Dodge. I'm serious, man. I can look you guys in the eyes and tell you I'm dead serious. I had been in that county jail for 7 years. Maybe to some of you that might not seem like a long time. Fucking, it's a long time. It's a long time. And when you're dealing with the kind of things that I was dealing with, it's like, it didn't whoop me. It didn't break my resolve or nothing like that. But I was so fed up with it. I just wanted to move on. Anyway, so my grandmother ends up passing away. And like my wife, like my mom, there would be no funeral. There would be none of that. I think I wrote up another eulogy for my grandmother, and I passed that on to one of my relatives. Matter of fact, one of my dad's sisters that I was just trying to reach out to and trying to establish some form of relationship with her, because it had never been there. It was non-existent, always in the past. So, I reached out to her, and she came through, man. Like she stood out head and shoulders above the rest. She got my eulogy, and she went to my grandmother's services, not really knowing anybody over there, feeling very unwelcome. And she read my eulogy. So, that was the extent of my involvement with her passing. And, the only other thing that I was going to tell you guys is this is when the leeches really came up. My grandmother didn't have a lot. She had a house that she owned, and this was from the time with my grandfather. I know he was in the military. He was a military guy. And this is real shit. I'm not just saying that because I'm from the city and this is just some nice trumped up story. But my grandfather actually helped work on the Golden Gate Bridge. He actually helped work on the bridge. She had pictures of him working on the bridge. But he was somebody that was in the military. He was a good man. He was a good man. He worked all his life. So he was able to get my grandmother a house They bought the house. She owned it. I'm pretty sure, you know, he had a pension or something, and she didn't have a lot, but she was okay. But my point is, when she passed, all her sons, my so-called uncles, they all start showing up. I'm locked up. I can't do nothing about it. They all show up at her house. They start going through all her belongings. There's like they're going over there like they're at a fucking swap meet, just taking shit out of her house. My stepfather, they don't really know him, so they fucking lock him up. They lock him out. My mom died in that house downstairs. A lot of her shit was still there. They took all her shit, trampled all over a lot of it, broke a lot of it, just disrespected everything. They're lucky I was locked up. Swear to God, they're lucky I was locked up. But, you know, he couldn't even get some type of possession or any. I told him, man, get anything, you know, so that I could have with my grandmother's or something of my mom's that has some kind of sentimental value. Just anything. And they wouldn't let him get nothing. They threw everything away, broke up a lot of shit. And then they all came in and tried to take her house. They tried to take her house. So, you know, I'm sure you guys, a lot of you guys have seen it yourselves, unfortunately, within your family, your own families, that all the snakes, they all come out when somebody passes away and everybody's trying to get money and they're trying to act like they really care, but really all they're really doing is they're sniffing around trying to get some fucking money. They want their cut of the house, or they want to see who, you know, who's going to get the car, who's going to take the furniture, who wants this, who gets that. It's sickening, man. It's sickening. Again, they're lucky that I was locked up. You know, my stepfather kept me abreast of everything that was happening, and it was foul. It was foul. But they didn't really have nothing nice to say about me either. Again, I was just that big time gang member, that bad person, that major fuck up. And, you know, that's how they always looked at me. But anyways, so, you know, those two things at that time, that's what was happening in Lil Max. So anyways, while that's all going on, you know, you guys got to understand, I've only been up in Lil Max for not that long. We're talking about a couple of months. But, you know, after I land in Lil Max and after things are kind of official and it's finally going around the jail that, hey, you know, Boxer is, it's official now, stamped, signed, sealed, delivered, done. A lot of homeboys, and I'm not saying it was because of me, but a lot of homeboys started dropping out. It was like a domino effect. I don't think it was because they thought I was going to bring them down or any of that either. These are the same guys that were saying that were being real critical about other people when they were checking in and they decided that they wanted to catch that bus. I don't understand how these dudes can sign up and then, you know, when they get in a situation, then they check out and or check in and you know, where's the loyalty and wah, 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 right? These are the same cats that got a lot to say, that portray themselves as being loyal, dedicated, always 10 toes down, all that good stuff. And then when they end up getting indicted, and they're not even looking at life cases, they're not even looking at life. They don't even have an L behind that little 15, 20 or whatever they're looking at. They're looking at like 10 years, but they check out because of that 10 years. And they're trying to get like 4 or 5 or something. Those are those same cats. That's why a lot of times when I hear cats say that or be critical on any level, I just laugh, man, because I know that it's just a bunch of talk. That's all it is. When your life is hanging in the balance and you're the one that's there looking at all that time and it's a real reality has become real for you, then, you know, you understand. Then the light bulb goes off, and then you understand, and you were blind before, you were sleepwalking, but now you get it. I don't know how many times I heard that. But anyways, a lot of guys started checking in. A lot of guys started checking in. You guys got to understand, by this time, everybody that was indicted with me on my indictment, everybody that was indicted, they had already pled out, checked in, or they were already gone. They released them. Me and Joel Beta were the only two left on my case at this point. So there was nobody there that was indicted with me that, had anything to worry about as far as anybody cooperating against them. There was nobody left. Everybody, all the cases were adjudicated straight up. Me and Joel Beta were the last two. Well, Joel Beta was, at one point, and this is nothing personal, but he was trying to act super active in the county jail. And, there was some personal issues that me and him had against each other. But all of a sudden, here comes Joel Beta. He comes walking in. They put him in North Max across the hall. And, when these guys started dropping out, I never closed the door on them, or I never took anything personal. Even though we had personal issues, when he went over there, North Max, he reached out. He was like, "Hey, B," he's like, it is what it is, bro. I got my daughter to think about. I got this. Hey, whatever motivates you, bro. I'm nobody to judge anybody. Everybody's got their own, whatever motivates them, whatever they're holding on to, whatever means something to them, whether it's your wife, your family, your kids. So what, man? So what? That's your business. And I wasn't looking at anybody like that. I'm not a hypocrite. But, I told Joe, I'm like, man, bro, hey, be a father to your kid. Same thing I was telling Turtle. Do what you got to do, man. This shit's for the birds. Unfortunately, it's fucked up that we're put in the situation that we are. I'm sure that we would all like to just walk out and not have to do none of this shit. But that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So, eventually Joe would end up moving over to Lil Max with us after we got rid of that fucking Robert Zapian, the cat that wanted to get the super burritos with the horchata for a couple of PALs and some stolen cars. Fucking grease bag. I hope you're watching, boy. Anyways, Joe would eventually move over there, and we sat there for the next couple of months until finally some things started happening. There was a case called the Palmas case. The Palmas case started happening, and this case was, I'll get into it in the next episode, but there was some youngsters out there from Palmas, from a neighborhood out there, a pretty big neighborhood out there in San Jose. And these youngsters, they were hitters. They were just a bunch of youngsters, but they were out there putting in a lot of work. They were out there gangbanging with sureños. And basically they were driving around looking for sureños in, different parts of San Jose. And, they were killing them. They had a bunch of bodies. I'm not sure exactly how many, but it was a pretty big case out there in San Jose, one of the biggest gang cases at that time, as far as, multiple homicides and this type of case, a case of that magnitude. They actually even built a courtroom specifically for that trial because there were so many defendants. They didn't know how they were going to bring everybody in and fit them all in one courtroom. They built a courtroom big enough for that trial, spent millions of dollars. But this case was, it had just happened. They made a bunch of arrests, and these guys were all starting to come in. I want to say they brought in like 2 or 3 waves, and this is one of the cases that would come into play later on. I didn't know none of these cats. I didn't know anybody from Palmas except for a couple of people that I was working with in my regiment on the streets. But as far as these youngsters, I didn't know them. They were kids. I'd been in the county jail for 7 years at that point. So they were probably, at the time, these guys were like 19, 20, 21, if that old. So when I first hit that county jail, these guys were probably like around seven or eight. So they were youngsters, man. But anyways, I'll get into it more in the next episode. I just wanted to get another Inner Demons out to you guys and at least get past this episode where I lost my grandmother. You know, so they say that they die in threes, and it must be true. My wife, my mom, my grandmother. I got smacked with three of them. And, you know, again, I sound like a broken record, but I just wanted to tap out. After that, I felt like, you know, I mean, there's still a purpose in life out there. There's still a purpose that I can still, you know, move on in life. It wasn't like I was going to hang my head and, you know, it wasn't a pity party or nothing like that. But it's just, you know, when you lose people like that are that close to you and your family's that small, and, you know, it's devastating, especially in a situation like that. Anyways, I'll get into the Bamas thing in the next episode because it kind of ties in, and, you know, we'll take it from there. But again, once again, you guys don't hear my dogs barking no more because it's late. That means there's no more kids out there trick-or-treating. They're done. There's probably a big-ass bowl of candy still sitting out there. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed your Halloween. It's over. It's a wrap. Now we're already looking at Thanksgiving. This year went by fast, boy. We're looking at Thanksgiving and then obviously Christmas. It's crazy how fast this year went by. But don't forget, we're going to be doing that Thanksgiving giveaway where we're going to be giving out gift cards to you guys. And then we're going to do the same thing for Christmas. So I'll probably tell you guys how we're going to run it in the next week or two so that those of you that want to be involved or want to be a potential, you know, winner of a gift card, I'll tell you guys how you guys can get in that event. Anyways, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. We're going to start doing lives again. Probably not as much as we were, but we'll throw one in every now and then. The Q&As as well, but we're going to keep the videos coming, the Mexican Mafia videos. I hope you guys like these last videos, these last three that you're going to get in the morning. Hopefully Sandman can edit this one in time, but hopefully you guys, you know, like these last three videos. Give me your input, give me your feedback on the death row video. I want to know what you guys think about that. What you guys think about the politics, the hypocrisy of death row politics and things that are going on over there in San Quentin. Inquiring minds want to know, so drop your comment. Anyways, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and cut this one short. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode right here. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed your holiday. Let's get ready for Thanksgiving now. You guys be safe. You guys stay positive. And I appreciate everybody that's been supporting the channel. I always see you guys in the comments. With that being said, this is your boy B, and I'm out.